Good afternoon. I'm here today with my colleague in government, Assemblyman Hikind, fresh off the trip from Albany. Thank you, Bill, for coming back for this important event. And with many different community leaders who we're going to identify in a minute. We're here today to protest a decision by the United States government to help a convicted Nazi war criminal who was responsible for the deaths of 28,000 Jews in a Nazi concentration camp. Somebody who was evicted from the United States of America from coming back here. And so just to give you some context for those of you who are not familiar, John Demuk came to the United States in 1952. He lied on his application and said that he spent World War II in a prisoner of war camp. Ended up working for the Ford Motor Company engine plant. In 1977, the Justice Department alleged that he was in fact Ivan the Terrible. Now let me tell you something, this is in fact the source of great controversy, because everybody agrees that John Demuk was a Nazi. There's no question about that. The only question that exists today was he Ivan the Terrible, or was he just an ordinary, evil, terrible Nazi, right? But there's no question that this man was a Nazi. Back and forth legal fights. The bottom line is that the United States government threw him out of the United States, stripped him of his citizenship, sent him to Germany, where he was tried in a German court and convicted of 28,060 counts of being an accessory to murder at the Sobibor death camp that was at the time in occupied Poland. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. While he was appealing, he died over the weekend in a nursing home on appeal. The idea that an individual who should be responsible for 28,060, and I want to say that exact number because every single individual who was killed in that death camp was a person who had friends, who had family, many of whom had family here in the United States, the largest community that we stand here as Holocaust survivors. The idea that a convicted Nazi war criminal should be flown back to the United States with the American government's help so that he can be buried in Cleveland, and so that already online we're actually seeing the neo-Nazis are excited about this and they would like to create a neo-Nazi shrine. It's offensive not just to Jewish Americans, but to every American. American ground is hallowed ground. This is a country where we're proud of our freedoms. Not everybody can be an American citizen. It's a process. He was stripped of his citizenship. He does not deserve to be back here in the United States. So I'm standing here with Assemblyman Hikind to announce that we are outraged, that is unacceptable, and we are calling on the United States government to stop any help and any cooperation. This was a sick individual who got his kicks murdering people in a German Nazi concentration camp. He can stay in Germany. We don't want him here in the United States of America. And I just want to recognize those who have joined us here today. We have the Chairman of Community Board 12, Alan Dubrow. We have the District Manager, Wolf Sender. We have member of the Community Board, Gidol Perlstein. We have a community leader, Shia Langzam. Another community, Rucham Silver. We have Shlomi Gumbo, Big Man Cellular down the block, as well as a community leader. We have Pesach Greenberg, who's here. We have Moshe Yitzchak Steinmetz. And we have Yitzchak David Youngereis, who's here as well. These are leaders from throughout the community who are coming here, and we're saying with one voice, the Jewish community is outraged. This is the largest concentration of Holocaust survivors right here in Borough Park, Brooklyn, in the entire United States. And it is offensive to them, it is offensive to us, and it is offensive to any American that a convicted Nazi war criminal who is responsible for the death of 28,060 Jews should be allowed to come back to the United States, dead or alive. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague in government, Assemblyman Dov Hikind.
First of all, let me thank Councilman David Greenfield for doing this. This is a moral issue for every single American, not just the Jewish community. We did not want Demuk in this country dead, alive. We don't want him dead. Let's just remember something. This is a community of many survivors of the Holocaust. My grandmother, among the millions of people who were murdered by the Nazis, we don't know where they are. We don't know where their gravesite is. Let Demuk stay in Germany and put him into a cemetery with SS and Nazis. There are enough of those cemeteries in Germany. He'll feel much more at home in a cemetery in Germany or somewhere else in Europe. We don't need him in this country. It's very, very clear this man is responsible for the death of so many people. He was part of the Nazi machine. We threw him out of the country. Why would we bring him back even dead? He doesn't belong in this country under any circumstances. So, you know, I don't know legally what can be done and what cannot be done by our government. But the point is, this is a moral issue. He does not belong in this country. And I would urge his family, go and bury him in Europe, bury him in the Ukraine, bury him in Germany, bury him in Poland. He'll feel much more at home in those places. And I hope that there is some way, that someone can find some way not to bring him back. And as Councilman Greenfield pointed out, there are approximately 170 neo-Nazi groups in this country. And let me tell you something. His family denies that he was involved in the Holocaust. But let me tell you, those neo-Nazis, they are salivating. They're going to have a place, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but they're going to have a place that they can go to. This is their hero. Demanyuk is their hero. Don't bring him back to America. I urge the family, don't bring him back to America. Thank you.
Alan Dubrow, the chairman of Community Board 12.
Thank you. I don't want to repeat what was said already. I just want to say that I'm in agreement, total agreement with both the councilman and the assemblyman. I think even myself, I've lost a number of my relatives, and we don't know where they're buried. Truthfully, my grandparents and their families, basically, from Poland, were wiped out. So I don't know where they are. I have no inkling whatsoever. I can't go visit their grave sites. And so I totally agree. I think it's totally wrong, and somebody that was totally responsible for all of those deaths and was removed from this country by our government should not be brought back.
We need to send a very clear message, and the message is clear. The United States of America does not welcome Nazis. This isn't a question of whether someone was a Nazi or wasn't a Nazi. Everybody agrees he was tried in a court of law. He's a Nazi. The only question now is what kind of Nazi was he? At the very least, we know he was responsible for the death of 28,060 individuals. It's outrageous. He's not welcome in this country. Nazis are not welcome. And especially at a time, it's a sensitive time when we saw what's happening all over the world. We just had, unfortunately, the terrible anti-Semitic terror incident in France. We know there are anti-Semites, there are neo-Nazis, at the insanity and the depravity of what he did. We are banding together as a community. We're going to do everything we can to prevent this terrible individual's body from coming back to the United States of America. We thank you all, and we now ask if you have any questions.
First of all, did you do any legal research to see if there's any means possible to challenge this at least on a temporary basis?
We're actually looking into it. I made a call actually to a senior member of President Obama's administration today and asked them to look into it, and they told us they would look into it and see what they could do.
You mentioned the murder of Luz. You were referring to that incident. Have you been looking into the dangers that could come to like Borough Park, like in general? Have you been involved in any increased measures of security?
Well, I know we both have spoken with the NYPD over the last few days, and obviously they told us, both myself and Assemblyman Hikind, who can tell you about his conversations as well, that they have increased security in the community. And I think your point is an important point. For the neo-Nazis, for the people who hate Jews, for the people who hate minorities, for the people who hate us, this is a symbol, right, to bring back John Demanyuk's body, right, the body of an actual Nazi who was convicted in court of war crimes would be a victory. It would be a rallying cry, and it would be something that, quite frankly, would endanger Jewish communities throughout the United States of America.
Let me just say about the security issues. In fact, on my way back from Albany, I spoke to a mother who said from Borough Park, who said that she was terrified. She was so concerned. First of all, I would urge everyone not to be concerned. That with God's help, things will be fine. But we need to do whatever we can. And there are no guarantees, that's for sure, whatever we're going to do. But I hope very soon, and Councilman and I were going to talk about this, that as soon as the budget is adopted in Albany, I might have something major to announce that is going to happen, that we've been working on. One of the things, we're going to call it the Libby-Kletsky Initiative. It's very important to have more surveillance cameras in this community. In fact, we'd like to blanket this community, Midwood, and eventually others, but that's what we're concentrating on, to blanket the community with surveillance video cameras. I'm waiting for the budget to be adopted, and believe me, then it will be a major announcement. We have something major on the way that will help. We can never say that we're going to do all this stuff with surveillance cameras. We're going to, we've got to do whatever we can, and then we've got to pray to God that nothing happens. But there are things that we are both working on together, individually in the council and up in Albany, to give us more security than we have at the present time.
The final thing I would add is that at something that Hikind's press conference to show our support for the community in France, I think one of the items that we focus on, which I think is very critical, is that we support the NYPD. Right? There's a lot of people today who are taking pot shots at the NYPD. They say, what's the big deal? So what? We haven't had a terrorist attack in 10 years. Yeah, there's a reason we haven't had a terrorist attack in 10 years, because the NYPD works very hard every single day to make sure that our communities are safe. That's why we haven't had a terrorist attack. So we together as a community, as the elected leadership, as the appointed leadership, as the representative leadership, we're sending a clear message. We support the efforts of the NYPD. We're working together. We're doing everything we can to keep our community safe. And this would send a terrible message. This will be a victory for the neo-Nazis in this country if John Zimanyuk, a convicted Nazi war criminal, is allowed to come back, and that's why we have to do everything we can to stop it from happening.
Yeah, David mentioned, one second. David mentioned the police, and we're watching all these events. Just let me say one thing, that we support the NYPD without question. We support the police commissioner. And I want to repeat what I've been saying, that those who are being critical of the efforts of the New York City Police Department in its fighting terrorism should be ashamed, and they are playing with fire. What they are doing is absolutely dangerous. This is not a political football for us to play games. The NYPD, under the commissioner, they are doing their job, what they need to do. And if there's a problem of terrorism coming out of the Jewish community, let them go to the synagogues. Let them go to our community. We have no problem. Do what you need to do to protect the people of this city. I don't care where you go, what you do, as long as you're doing the job. We don't want any more September 11th.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned before that you suggested that Zimanyuk be buried in Germany. Is that something the German government would allow?
You know, as we discussed, he's not welcome here, right? Saying if there's such patriotism to his Nazi heritage past, perhaps he can go there. Let them find anywhere else. Let them bury him at sea like they did Osama bin Laden, okay? Let them bury him at sea. I don't care where they bury him, but not on the hallowed grounds of the United States of America, a country that stands for the exact opposite of what Zimanyuk stands for. So that's the message. They can do whatever they want with him, but he's not welcome. Nazis are not welcome in the United States of America.
I don't think there's any problem if the family would go along and have him buried in Ukraine, where he comes from. Let's remember, that's where he's from. And, let him be buried in one of these places. Like I said, there are cemeteries throughout Germany and other places where you actually have members of the SS buried there. Bury him there, he'll feel a lot more comfortable buried there than he will in Cleveland. So we hope the family will listen. It's a much better idea than bringing him to the United States. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.